Hello, you're listening to Nick Needs to Know, the podcast. Join me as I have open, honest and relatable conversations around careers, mindsets and life in general, and what that looks like for each one of our different guests.
Yo.
On this episode, I'm joined by Jock Fiddes and Craig Lee, where we talk about their careers and life, both past and present. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy. Right, Craig and Jock, thank you for joining me. Nice to meet you both.
Pleasure.
Again.
Yes.
No,
it's not been long.
Yeah, I know. So I first met you guys it'll be about a week ago, were it now?
Yeah, a little over, I think, yeah.
Yeah, up in Scotland on a mindset reset course, what you guys were fronting. So I wonder if you could just give the listeners a little synopsis about that course.
Yeah, sure. So Mindset Reset, this is where I have to challenge myself now to stay within a minute or so, because I could talk for hours about it. But Mindset Reset is fundamentally about giving people space and time away from their role and their daily life to think about themselves, their default behavior patterns, how they respond to certain situations, and some of the issues that they're probably creating for themselves that they don't realize. See, everybody knows their own answers to their own issues, but nobody ever takes the time to really think about them. So Mindset Reset is, let's take people away for a couple of days, ask them some thought-provoking questions, and allow people to realize that stuff.
Brilliant. And credit to you two guys, because, I mean, the first and last time I met you was on that course, and you obviously made an impression on me because you're here now today doing a podcast after me begging you to come on. So I'm grateful for that.
No, it's good to know, to be honest.
Yeah, so obviously you're aware of this podcast. We talk about careers and mindsets as well and lifestyle. And we all know what we're doing in this day and age and what we're doing at the minute. But what I like to know is, how did you get to that position? So I don't know how you want to start it, if you want to do it alphabetically, or hardest out of both of you can go first. It's up to you too. So if you want to take me back to when you first remember having a paid job.
Oh, first paid job. God, I'm going to take you right back now. So my first paid job was when I was 10 years old. So I grew up really working class, I suppose. I remember some of the things that stick out, but I remember asking for a bottle of Coca-Cola one day at the supermarket, and Mum said, no chance, it's far too expensive. You can have some Robbie's cordial for 89p because it'll last a lot longer. And then my dad my stepdad was a flight test engineer at a place called Woodford Aerospace near me. So he used to was a mechanic fundamentally and an engineer working on planes, and he got made redundant. And he took that money and started a hardware store. So we're talking, 27, 28 years ago now. And 10 years old, some of my friends started getting pocket money. And I said one day, can I have some pocket money? And he goes, no, you can't. He goes, you can come and work for me for 4 hours on a Sunday. So 10 years old, I worked in a shop serving customers and dealing with the general public on a day-to-day basis. And I got all of £2 a week. So slave labour, I think, comes to mind. But that was my earliest paid job.
£2 a week?
Yeah, you can't buy a lot with £2 a week. And I used to go and spend it at the sweet shop. And I remember getting in trouble one day when my mum said, where's that £2 you got gone? And I basically had a massive bag of sweeties to show for it.
When were you born? In 50s?
I know it sounds terrible, doesn't it? That was 1996. I'm giving away my age now. That was 1996.
1996, and you were 10 at that time, were you?
I was, yeah.
All right. So you're still younger than me.
That makes me feel really old when I say it like that. I don't normally feel old on a daily basis, but that really makes me feel old.
Yeah, I'd have been 14 in 96, mate, so you're not that old.
Oh, that's all right. Then you've made me feel miles better instantly. I like this podcast. I'll come back.
So you've gone from £2 a week, 10-year-old. You've obviously stayed in school, completed your education. Did you go on to further educate, or were there more work from then?
Yeah, I went on to college. Still worked at my dad's shop. Actually worked at my dad's shop till I was 18 and left college. So I did 8 years. to be honest, taught me an awful lot. People always say I can talk to anyone, and it's probably that 8 years experience I had. Like, I literally grew up dealing with the general public, especially elderly people as well. So I've got a huge respect for the elderly from that. But yeah, second career for me was a move from college. I studied biology in college, did well in that, and then I got a job at a company called AstraZeneca, one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, doing and as I was an environmental microbiologist, which has a really posh title, but fundamentally you're just counting bacteria that grows on plates. So it was relatively boring. And that put me through university as well. So I started university, but I got pretty bored of that job. It's not very, I've got quite a scatty brain. You'll probably realise from my work history soon, but I like to be hands-on and working. That was pretty much sat in a lab day to day, counting numbers on plates. But we manufactured a drug called Zoladex, which was for prostate cancer. And our job fundamentally as QA, quality assurance, was to make sure that bacteria weren't growing in the area that this drug was being produced, because people are injecting it straight into them.
Yeah.
So if something appeared on one of these plates, and I'm talking about 1,500 plates a day, and there was never anything growing on them because the area was that sterile. So you're looking at 1,500 empty plates, agar plates a day, and then just inputting zeros into a system. So it sounds like a good job, and the prospects were pretty good, but it wasn't for me at that time in my life.
And what was your aspirations leaving college? And what did you go to college with the mindset of, right, when I leave, this is what I want to be?
No, not particularly. I think it's so hard to know. I mean, I've got a son who's 16 who starts college end of this year, and he's been in the same boat of, he has no idea what he wants to do. And I think that was a trap I was stuck in. I think a lot of kids get stuck in that, or a lot of teenagers, I should say, get stuck in that trap. I mean, are you supposed to know what to do at 6? I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be doing now sometimes. So,
yeah. But you know what? I think that is, people say it's a trap, or you get a lot of pressure to know what you want to do when you're going through your education and leaving. But I think you're closing yourself off to so many opportunities and so many experiences by having that mindset. I think it's good to have that mindset or experience like yourself, what you've been through, like not knowing what you want to do, because you're more open to other things. Do you not think?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean. Interestingly enough, when we did, I don't know if you ever did one in school, but you do this like careers ideas portal, and it asks you a load of questions and then says, oh, this is the career we recommend. And mine came up as rescue diver, which actually looking back, that would probably be super suitable for me. I'm really outdoorsy, I'm well into fitness, and I've actually done a diving qualification now. So actually it was probably right at 16. I just didn't know then. I was just like, oh, what's this rubbish it's given me? But actually it probably would have been a great career for me. So maybe I should have listened a bit more in school.
I'd like to see the algorithm for that, how it comes up with them sort of answers. Is it because it rhymed with Skyver?
Yeah, do you know what? I think that's a great point.
I know what it can be. Skyver, diver, rescue diver, yeah. Also, yeah.
Yeah, that'll do, yeah. That's about how my school went, to be honest with you.
So what was your next career venture then?
Yeah, so I was on the AstraZeneca for about a year. And then basically I was just really, really frustrated there. My dad was struggling in the shop. So I went back working in the hardware store with my dad. But I got into doing a lot of the building work that he used to do. So I'd go out fitting windows, we'd do conservatories, porches, things like that. So it added a few extra skills and strings to my bow. Did that for about 3 years. And then my son came along, and oddly enough in my head at the time as a 20-year-old lad, I thought working for my dad wasn't a proper job. Irrespective of what I was doing, I probably could have been doing anything, but for me in my head at that time, working for my dad was not a proper job. So I went and got a job in a call centre. It's my first call centre job doing debt management.
Did that give you a different view on working, because you've come from your dad's job's, like say, seems like a manual, hands dirty sort of job to a back in the office again, and you kind of left that behind at AstraZeneca, didn't you?
Yeah, it was an odd move, to be honest. Thinking back on it now, it was probably just this belief I had that I couldn't work for my dad because I had a son on the way and I had to grow up and be a man and start my own life and like not rely on him. I think that's what prompted the move. Moved back into debt management. I only did that for about 2 years, to be honest with you. Sort of progressed through the ranks in debt management. You start off on the phones just generating leads and then move into an advisor status as it is. But essentially you're just selling the plan. You're a salesman selling the plan to prospective clients. Did that for a couple of years. But yeah, the practical side of me just never really went away. And I decided at that point that I needed to go and get back into the building game, really. And I'd always wanted to be a plasterer. That was the one trade that my dad always said was, he always used to say he could do everything, but he just can't plaster. And I don't know whether that got into my head. I was like, right, that's the one that's tricky, because I always saw my dad as this person who could do everything. So if there was something he couldn't do, it must be a really special skill. And that's probably what prompted the move into plastering, really, because it was the one thing that he couldn't do. And still to this day, you know, he's that guy who fixes everything. He rebuilt my car engine once when he was younger, so I always really looked up to him. So I went and thought plastering's a special skill. Went and did a course in plastering, and then went out working on my own for, got a good number of years, really. Probably about four years plastering.
Plasterers, yeah, they earn some good money though, plasterers. So what made you want to not be a millionaire and take the career that you've taken today then? Because obviously being a plasterer, you can earn what you want. You're like the kings of trade, aren't you? Plasterers and sparkies.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not something you can do for life. I mean, if you meet a plasterer today, in fact, we met one up in Scotland, and the first thing he does is complain about his shoulder, which is a very typical plastering thing. And I actually have problems with my shoulders today, and I only did it for 4 years. But no, it wasn't any of that. The thing that stopped me was the recession. So the banking crisis, 2008, 2009, I had 6 months worth of work pre-booked in, and that dropped to 6 weeks overnight. And that 6 weeks very quickly ran out. So I got to the end of the 6 weeks, and bear in mind, I'm supporting a family at this time, trying to support my son. And yeah, it got pretty tough, to be honest with you. I was probably out of work for about 2.5 months. So I was like, I need to go and find something to fill the gap. I actually started street canvassing for a solicitor's firm. So literally going up to people in the streets and asking them if they'd had any accidents recently. So, if you were walking past me with a crutch, good luck, I was on you. And that was, again, just lead generation, really, for accident claims. But that was me completely in survival mode. And I've always been a grafter. That's the one thing that my dad instilled in me from a young age. If you want to earn money and you want to do something, go and work and go and earn it. And that's something that I took in then. I wasn't gonna cry about it and rest on my laurels. It was a case of I need to go and find some money, and I would have literally taken anything, give it my all just to keep supporting my family.
And then obviously that went on for years or months or?
No, not too long, to be honest. I knew that wasn't a sustainable career. It was just something that I could literally jump into. It was like, go for your interview. Okay, here's a clipboard, off out into the streets you go. So it was like instant cash for me. You got paid at the end of every week. So it was a good income. And that's what got me looking around to something else that would fill the gap. And that fundamentally is where I found the job that I do today, or the start of the career that I'm in today, I should say.
So, Jock, I wonder if you could take us back. I don't know if it's as far as 96, is it?
Oh,
when you started working?
I'm older than Craig, so might be a little bit. Might be a little bit older, but bizarrely enough, my first job was also working for my dad. So my dad had the village shop in the village that I grew up in. My mum was the postmistress. My dad owned the shop. So me and my brothers were basically the store hands, if you like, stocking shelves, serving customers and whatnot. So I didn't have the luxury of being paid £2 a week, though I got paid in chocolate and crisps, most of which were out of date. So they were going to get put in the bin anyway. But there, from a young age, spawned my love of food. I imagine that's what that instilled in me from a young age. But so I did that for a long time. Until my mum and dad lost the shop through a number of pre-them bad decisions, I suppose would be a way to put it. When they bought the shop, they didn't realise that there was quite a lot of supplier debt that they were actually inheriting. And when I grew up in sort of the north of Scotland, there was one supermarket in the nearest sort of town, and when that quickly became 4 supermarkets, the little village shops started to struggle. So the money wasn't coming in, the debts were still there, and then sort of the shop went. So that was it, and that was kind of about the time that I up and left home. I left home at 16. and went to drama school at 16, and I was away on my own at that point. I moved to Wales, needed a job to sustain myself at that point. So
Scotland to Wales is quite a move.
Yeah.
Do you not think that's 2/3 of the country just passed you by from one destination to another? What did you think when the first day going to Wales? Was it massive for you? I mean, it must have been. I struggle sometimes crossing Hull.
I mean, I think when I lucked out was the drama school I went to was in pretty rural mid Wales, and I'm from a pretty rural part of Scotland anyway, so it was a little bit of a home away from home. The first place that I lived was helping out on a farm, so it was all things that I was kind of used to, just with a slightly different, hard to understand accent compared to the hard to understand accent that I had when I left home. But yeah, do you know what? So I had a room in a house, and this house was on a farm, so that was basically how I supplemented everything, was just helping out on the farm. I suppose similar to Craig, I've always worked. I've always wanted to work and just be earning my keep and sort of giving back in some way, and working on the farm was just ideal for that. And that gave me very, very cheap room and board. Not that my mother knew how cheap it was, because she sent me the money and they only got some of it, because I was supplementing it by taking in the livestock and whatnot. So I did that for a while. Got my first degree, and then decided that I would brave the city and moved to Cardiff and did a second degree, and fell into your sort of, I suppose, typical student job cycle of bars. Bar work, it's easy. Go to college during the day, bar work at night, try and figure out when you're going to write your dissertation, and just muscle through for a good couple of years with that. But, talking to people, interacting with people, it was very addictive, so I did that for a long, long while I did my second degree down in Cardiff. And
what were your aspirations looking forward after leaving university? Did you want to get further into drama or acting, singing, whatever it may be? No,
so when I went to drama school, I actually went to do technical theatre. Always been quite hands-on and like musical. So I kind of drifted into technical theatre, doing amateur dramatics as a kid, and then ended up from the stage to the band, and then from the band to the sound desk, and then the sound desk to the light desk, and kind of got a bit of a hobby in that. So I actually left to do technical theatre, and then my plan was, I was going to go and do that. And I got some really cool jobs as work experience in that. I was sound teched in the West End for Andrew Lloyd Webber and the Really Useful Theatre Company as a work experience down there. That was being flung in at the deep end for sure. But bizarrely, for anybody that knows me now, would hear the term drama school and assume singing, dancing, front of stage, but it was actually the opposite for me at that time. My front of stage experience, if you like, came much later on in life when I found that bug. But when I left my technical theatre degree, I moved into psychology because I started to take a couple of acting modules as part of my degree to sort of fill up the time. And one of the things that really fascinated me then was method acting, and how people could just assume roles and they could learn mannerisms and behaviours and everything. And that really fascinated me. So I made the move from technical theatre to behavioural psychology, which looked a little bit odd on a CV, I grant you. But that's where I went. And I honestly at that point thought that I'd pursue that career, maybe get into teaching or, carry on and do a doctorate in that, because it was just everything that landed in my plate at that point just seemed to fit. It was me. It was what I enjoyed. It made sense. And that's where I was going to go with it. And then didn't, I suppose.
And then what did you do? Is this, I mean, I don't know how long you've been at this media company. Has it been since then?
No, not since then. No. So I graduated and then took the infamous year out, which turned into 6 years. And I actually went and became an all singing, all dancing entertainer in Spain. Didn't realise quite what I was applying for when I applied for it. I kind of landed in Mallorca, got handed a microphone and told to sing a song or two, which was fine because I'd done a few auditions and stuff in the past. And then, Yeah, I worked for a number of companies, some of them on the stage, some of them in the hotels, sort of just talking to hotel, people on holiday. I moved up the ranks a little bit, started doing complaints management, which is a very strange job to have when people are on holiday, because you've literally got 4 days to sort their complaint out before they go home.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw a big chunk of the world and had some amazing times whilst learning a lot of skills along the way. Talking to people, new languages, language barriers, and people, like I say, being on holiday. So the stress, the pressure with that as well. So I did that for a number of years. Ended up with my own show at one point as well. I was touring the Balearics as an Elvis tribute act for a couple of years there as well. So yeah, I did that for a couple of years. Do you know what? I say for my sins, but I say it in jest. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and that, you know what, I would never have planned that that's where I would be, but I would never change it. It took me to some amazing places. But then I was getting old for the business. You know, I came back to the UK in 2007. But that was me being old. People were coming out, at 18, and now here's me in my young 20s and they've got more stamina than I had. They could, it was just crazy. They weren't getting as injured. They weren't losing their voice. So I left that very exciting job and ended up working for an insurance company. So I went from, singing on stage for a living to investigating insurance claims, which was quite funny because I'd heard the other side of it from being in resorts for a long time. The Mr. Smith comes and tells you he's lost his 4 gold Rolexes that he happened to take on holiday, and you're very sorry for them when you're in, resort. But then when you're an insurance claim investigator, you're like, why would you take 4 Rolexes on holiday, Mr. Smith? So it was a very different side of things, but tried to find something I could put my degree into use for. Because one thing my mum and dad had always said to me growing up was, study and get a career in it. Study and get a career in it. I'm like, well, I kind of don't want to go back and get a doctorate now. So let's do something where I can try and evaluate behaviours, I suppose. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I moved home. So I was doing this down in Brighton. And I moved home because the cost of living was getting horrific. Like that close to London, south coast of England, it was just super expensive. So I moved back up the road and landed the job with the company that we're with now. I started with a third party company, and then we were bought over a couple of years in, but that was back in 2010 that started. And been here ever since, just bouncing around, trying new things and seeing what's next.
Yeah, so you both kind of had like an interesting journey. So looking back, do you think you value your degree and your qualifications more, or would you value your experiences in life more when it comes to work that you're doing today and possible future work?
I think it's a real fine balance for me that tips quite regularly. I don't believe that I'd be where I am today without the experiences that I had through work and the people that I met along the way. But then at the same time, I think I understand the things that are important to me and how to keep them. And because of because of my degree in my studies and understanding, my studies have definitely got me through tougher times than I think I'd have got through without them, because I can understand a lot more from a neurological level why things are happening as opposed to just an emotional level, which can be super sort of daunting for a lot of people. So I would definitely say that it's a scale that I would struggle to balance constantly. It definitely tips back and forward between life experience and qualifications for sure.
So looking at your friendship, I guess inside and outside of work, when did that come to fruition? When did that start blooming? You guys obviously met at work.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Yeah, just over 6, I think.
6 years now.
Yeah, and it was, as cliche as it sounds, it was a friendship at first meet. We were in we started the same role at the same time. It was a new role, and we were put down for 2 weeks of intensive training. And the first day, in a room full of maybe about 40 people, we ended up weighing in on the same conversation with the exact sort of same approach to it, which was different to most other people in the room. And that was very obvious at that point that there was a friendship there. And I think it has just gone from leap to leap to leap. Craig was best man at my wedding a couple of years ago. Yeah. But again, one of those unexpected things that has definitely reaped a lot of benefits.
I mean, I obviously knew about Craig being your best man at your wedding, and I found that strange, if I'm honest with you, because I had this image of best men at weddings and stuff like that. You've known them since you were like childhood friends. So to me, that speaks volumes about your friendship. There must be a special bond there. If I mean, 6 years is not a massive amount of time, is it? It's a snippet of your life, and to take that role of best man, it must have come as a shock to you, Craig.
It was, yeah. It wasn't. I mean, yeah, I know mine and Jock's friendship is, you're right, it's really special. And it's not often that you meet someone that you kind of just really click with straight away. You think exactly the same about issues. You've got very, very, very similar interests.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been my support over the past 6 years in terms of, if I've got things to get off my chest and vice versa, that's the person I speak to. Because I know if it's something that's bothering me or I'm feeling particularly low, he's not going to drag me down even further, but he's going to see the flip side and tell me I'm being an idiot sometimes when I need to, or back me up on what I'm thinking. So, yeah, it's not often that you meet someone in your life like that. And then, obviously, for him to ask me to be his best man at his wedding was a surprise, just given the time, but an absolute bloody honour.
So he must have, like I say, he must have been through some really, really good times and some really, really tough times and to form that friendship. Would that be true of me to say that? Yeah,
I think we've supported each other through a couple of tough times, actually. I went through a situation just a few years ago that was pretty tough emotionally, and Jock was the person that I sort of lent on and spoke to about that. And then on the flip side, we've been to Europe on multiple occasions to see various country singers, because that's a common interest of ours, bit of country music, which might be a surprise to you. But we've been around seeing a few artists, so we've had a couple of trips to Europe, created some absolutely amazing memories over there as well. And I think now when our respective partners say, when we turn around and just go, oh, me and Jock had a night together the night, and now all of a sudden we're going to Europe, it's not so much of a surprise as it was the first time. They kind of expect that when we go away together, we can come back with some story or some trip booked. Or
so you set your stall out early days.
We really did.
You've got to.
Yeah, we really did. We went from talking about how we both liked the same country artist to an hour later looking for tickets for this artist in the UK and being really disappointed that they were all sold out, to then going, well, where else are they playing? Finding out that they were playing a very small intimate gig in Berlin. And then within an hour, one of us had booked tickets to the gig and the other person had booked flights. And then we both had to then go home and tell our respective other halves that actually we were disappearing to Germany for the day. And then a couple of weeks later, we were having the same conversation, telling somebody what happened. And they were like, it's an awful long way to go for a day. And we went, you know what, you're absolutely right with that. So let's go to Poland as well. So we changed some flights, changed some arrangements, and had a nice little weekend in Germany and Poland, just off a conversation about, oh, I didn't think anyone else knew that artist. Oh, I really like him. Oh, well, let's travel the world to see him. Yeah, definitely set the stall out early, that one.
Have you ever done it, Nick? Just booked a random weekend away or something on a whim?
Have I ever done it?
Yeah.
No, not really. Well,
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's something I'm going to have to look into now. But no, I don't think I've ever done anything like that. Like I said earlier, I struggle travelling across Hull. And you've got Jock moving three quarters at length of country just to do a drama course. But no, yeah. I mean, when I come up to Livingston, it took me 5 hours in van, and then I got back. Obviously, 5 hours there, 5 hours back. I had van lag. I thought we were in a different time zone.
I've never seen someone so defeated by a 5 hour journey in my life.
Well, it's heartbreaking when you know you've got it to come. Yeah. But yeah, no, just touching on that course, you guys obviously know what you're talking about when it comes to mindset and stuff like that, and how to help others, get through the day-to-day life and the careers and things like that. So What does that look like for you two, helping each other out in your work life?
Do you know what? I think because we just think so similarly, it's very simple. Like when the phone goes and you answer it, I can tell within a couple of seconds what way is that conversation going to go. Is it this Craig needs to offload with something, or Craig's going to offload with something, or is it the sharing of some bone of hilarity, or is it just I've had a long day, I just need to talk to somebody that's not going to irate me, and it just flows. It just works. It's really hard to explain, but we just know. And then the phone goes down, and then without fail, within a couple of minutes, there'll be a message on the back of it, just going, cheers for that, needed that, feel loads better for that, or we just move on. And it's like, it's never mentioned again. It can just be spoken about and blocked off. And that's something that's really handy as well, a lot of the time, just to box things off. I mean, the amount of really probably random, obscure conversations Craig and I had when I was in hospital a couple of years ago, and it was exactly what I needed. I just needed to not be thinking about what was going on with me for a minute, or 10 minutes or an hour, as sometimes they came out with, and we would talk about some absolute drivel. But that was exactly what I needed at that time, was just that escape. And then the phone will go down and it was back to reality, for both of us. And that, can't put a price on the value of that and what that helped me through, for sure.
I mean, I obviously know what went off from your openness on that course. And if you want to talk about it, feel free to, but that must have brought you like massively closer together as a friendship.
Yeah, it was a tough time. I mean, I remember getting the phone call, and I'll let Jock talk about it in more detail if he wishes to. But I went from initial reaction of dread to, hang on, what supports are going to need, and that's my job as a friend, right? Is to give him what he needs in that moment. It's not to think about myself and wallow in my own self-pity or problems, but to think about what he needs. And this is, I think, where, when you say why we're such good friends, is we both operate on that level. So, the way we lead our teams is very much people focused. Like, I care about my team massively. And I think, I hope they'd all say that, but I truly care on a deep personal level about what they're going through. So if they're going through any problems and issues, that absolutely comes first above anything else work related. And that just comes from that sort of friendship side. And I see the same in Jock. So that's probably why, that is exactly why we created the course we did together. It was an idea that came about probably 4 years ago. And when I came up with the idea of what we wanted to do, because for me, it's about how can we touch the lives and help as many people as possible get out of their own way, for want of a better term. There was only one person that could have built the course with me that thinks the way I wanted the course to go, and it was always going to be Jock for that reason.
And would you say you've got the same view on that then, Jock?
Oh, 100%. It was, if you look at things for the roles we're currently in, I think it's very obvious. Like, you get managers, you get leaders, and Craig and I would always strive to be described as a leader of those people. We take our jobs very seriously, in that sense that we are there to take care of the people that are in our care, and that comes front and foremost above anything else. It's easy in a business sense to get wrapped up in talking about figures and performance, whereas our conversations are much more around, how you doing, what's going on, let's understand, and that supportive level. And we do that with each other. And so, let's address the elephant in the room. When I got my diagnosis with cancer a couple of years ago, one of the toughest and probably easiest at the same time calls to make was to Craig, to let him know. So I had a list of people that I knew needed to know from me. And then there was a larger list that could find out in the ether of social media, if you like. Not professing to say I'm that important, that I've got thousands of friends, but more than I was going to phone one by one. And I knew that telling him was going to be tough, because yeah, I knew that if he was telling me it would have been tough to hear, but I also knew that of everybody that I phoned, he was going to be the one person that wouldn't let me give up. Like it wasn't going to be the, oh well, been nice knowing you, cheery bye type approach. It was, there was going to be that level of support and encouragement there from the off. And I kind of remember coming off the phone to him, and then I phoned my wife, and I was like, I've just told Craig, and she was like, oh my God, how are you? How is he? Shall I phone him? And I was like, no, we're good. We're fine. We've had a nice chat. And it was a very odd turn of phrase to use at that time. So he just found out I had a 2% chance of survival and came off the phone going, we've had a nice chat about it. It was a very odd turn of phrase, but that's how it felt. It felt just very, very releasing and very supported at the same time. And like, I knew what I needed to do, and Craig was there 100%. And as much as people thought I was ridiculous for the way that I approached it and handled it, I never felt that when I was speaking to Craig, and we spoke a lot. There was always, he got my crazy. And that was exactly what I needed at those times. And so then it was just, yeah, it was just exactly what if you would write on a page, the things that you want from a friend, he was that in spades. And, I think we both strive to just be that person, and hope we never need to be for each other, but strive to be it if we're called upon it.
And do you feel the importance now of having surrounded yourself with friendship or friendships? Do you feel like that is an important part of work life as well as personal life?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's not about how many friends you've got, it's about the friends that you have, and I don't have a massive circle, but the ones that are in my circle, I trust implicitly with everything that goes on. And, you need the people there that you look up to. You need the people there that, are stood beside you. You need the people there that have got your back. And I think ultimately the ideal is to find people that can occupy those three spaces and just move around and be who you need when you need them to be, and then you can do the same for them. And you spend the most of your time in work, right? 40 hours a week. And if you don't surround yourself with people that get you and that you get and that you're on the same page, then that work can very quickly become stressful. But if you've got those people, like I've got Craig and, he's got me, we can go with those stressful weeks and come out of it at the end of it going, amazing week, got loads done, loads of energy, loads of drive, loads of passion. If that was somebody else, it would be like trawling through mud. Absolutely. It's, I don't think you can really articulate the importance of it or the impact that it has. It's just something that you know what I mean? It's like not great for a podcast. I can't describe it. You just know, but it's kind of where it sits.
So looking back then at your career and education and such, taking Craig and the friendship out of it, is there anything you would do different or anything you would change going back if you could?
Going back, if I could do anything different, I think I would have I'd have taken more trust in myself before I did. So I had a very difficult upbringing. I left home with a very, very low feeling of self-confidence. And everything that I wanted to do myself, I second guessed whether I was good enough for it, whether I could do it, whether I could go through with it. And then it got to a point where somebody offered me my own show. Somebody offered me my own show, basically. You're going to be the headliner, you can do it. And I second guessed it for a long time before I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, amazing memories. But I'd actually been given an opportunity maybe 2 years before that. And I completely bottled it because I didn't have the confidence in myself. I was singing in Lanzarote and somebody came up and handed me a business card and said, when you're back in the UK, give me a ring, come down and cut some tracks. I went down to London, went into a recording studio for Sony, recorded some tracks. And then the question was asked, right, do you want to pursue this? And I said no. I didn't have the confidence in myself to do that. Give it a couple of years, made a different answer. Had some awesome look backs. So yeah, I think looking back, if I could give my younger self any advice, would be believe in yourself a bit more, because what's the worst that can happen?
And going forward, what does that look like for Jock?
Do you know what? I I say no a lot more now than I've ever used to, because the things I say yes to, I believe in, and I believe in myself in. So I will give 100% to anything that I commit to, and that's coming from that new confidence. And I say no to things that don't spark that within me, because there's probably somebody out there who it does spark that in, and they're the better person for that. I don't feel the need to be understood as much anymore. I don't feel the need to have my hand in every pie anymore, which I think I did when I started out in this business. Kind of figured the more places I am, the better known I'll be. Now I care much more about being known for what I'm really passionate about and doing that well than, having my face on every poster, I suppose.
I think having your hand in lots of pies at the start helps you out. You've got to put your hand in lots of pies before you find out which one you like, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you just stick with that pie.
That's it.
So, Craig, onto his fine self. What is anything you would change if you could, looking back at your past?
Do you know what? Now I've had time to think about it because I knew the question was coming. I'd say no. When you first asked Jock that question, my initial reaction was to go, do you know what? Some of the tough times that I'd been through, I'd take them away.
Yeah.
When I lost my plastering work and the recession hit, I was literally feeding my family on £20-25 a week some weeks. I was just buying buckets of pasta and chopped tomatoes. And that was tea and lunch every single day. Do you know what? I wouldn't change it because it's made me who I am. Like, I know that I'm resilient, like super resilient. You can throw anything at me, it doesn't matter what it is, and I'll get through it. And that comes from those times. So looking back, would I take them away? No, I wouldn't. And part of the reason we built the course we did was to make people realise that we all go through tough times, right? We all have them, but they make you who you are. And if you're going through a tough time now, do you know what? It won't last. It won't. I've been through some really tough times growing up, and that not being able to feed my family is a particular one because I've got a lot of pride, and that probably killed my pride more than anything in my whole life. So having been in that situation at the time was one of the worst situations of my life, but it truly has made me who I am today.
Moving forward then, what does the future look like for Craig?
Honestly, Nick, I want to help people as much as possible. I want to help as many people as possible. Understand that they're a lot more powerful than they believe, than they know. And I know that sounds probably pretty corny, but we all have an amazing ability to be resilient, to take accountability for things we can't take accountability for. And I've experienced that through my life. Jock's experienced that through his life. And we want to kind of spread that message, really, which is the premise of the course, is to make people realise that whatever role you want, you can go and get it. There's just a few steps that you need to take. There's a few things you need to realise about yourself. And
I keep saying it will probably the best course I've ever attended, and I've been to a few corporate courses in my time, and maybe one or two of them, hit home like yours did. I think another one I went to was the wellbeing courses that they run, which was another good one. Which reminds me of a story actually. You guys know what Tai Chi is, yeah?
Aye, yeah.
Yeah. So we went to a course, I'm not naming any names, but Adrian knows who he is. And I says, he says, what's this course about tomorrow, Nick? I says, it's like a wellbeing course, and they're doing a bit of Tai Chi as well. He says, what's that, instead of a buffet, like? I said, Tai Chi's not food, mate.
Oh, brilliant.
So they're having the karate cake for dessert if you want as well.
Karate cake.
So before we move on to quick fire questions, tell me one thing each about you guys that not many people know about you. Craig, I'll let you go first because you had time to think about that last question I asked Jock.
Oh, God. One thing people don't... I mean, this is probably my default answer for this, right? But I've said this in a few meetings. But I played the Genie in Aladdin in a pantomime. So that was a pretty amazing experience. I'm quite into musicals and things. So that was my opportunity to go and be on stage and live scratch that little itch that was in my head. And of course, I had to play the Genie, which basically meant they just painted me silver and I was on stage in nothing more than a pair of pants. which was quite the experience, but an amazing one nonetheless.
And Jock, about yourself?
Well, I have also played the genie in a pantomime, which is a very random coincidence because it was not the same genie and not the same pantomime.
Can I also say
you two were made for each other.
I never knew that. I did not know that. Why have you never told me?
Things you don't know about me. Probably something people don't know about me is that I have physically bumped into Robbie Williams, the man himself. When I was down recording my tracks in Sony, he was recording in another room, and I came out of my room completely sort of just in absolute cloud nine as to what was going on, turned the corner, and then boom, straight into Robbie Williams, and was quickly moved off of him by a very large, bulgy bodyguard and taken to the side of the hallway. So my fleeting interaction with Robbie Williams at Sony there. So I think many people know that one.
Interesting. Right, we're going to move on, guys. It's time for quick fire questions. Right, quick fire questions, guys. I've put a bit of a twist on it because there's 2 years online. We're going to go for a Mr. and Mrs. vibe, if that's all right.
Go for it.
So, question number 1. Who is the funniest?
I don't know.
Is that situation dependent?
Oh, I like to think that I'm a bit of a comedian. I like to think that I'm a bit of a comedian, but I'm also aware that not many other people agree with me. But then on a night out, because we have very few inhibitions at the best of times, I would say that we can both be accused of being quite comedic in that sense.
Do you agree, Craig?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's situational. I think we can both be serious and we can both be a bit of a joker.
Okay.
You know, we are quite similar in a lot of ways. But
okay, I'll take your half answer. Number 2, who is the best cook?
Jock, when it comes to cooking meat, steaks, things like that, absolutely. But I reckon I've got the bigger repertoire.
I 100% agree. Give me a barbecue, I'll give anyone a run for their money. But see if it's anything else, I'm very much a fan of throw it in and see what happens.
So we'll go with Jock on coals and Craig in the kitchen.
And you'll get like dolphin potatoes.
Number 3, who is the best at keeping secrets?
Craig. And I'll tell you for why, Nick, because my wife has arranged a surprise 40th birthday party for me. And Craig has been involved and has been complicit with this for a number of months now. And I only found out last week that he'd kept this secret from me. So I will definitely give Craig the award for that one.
And you're agreeing with that, Craig, yeah?
I'll take that, absolutely. Although I could tell, yeah, absolutely take that.
Number 4, who is the most stubborn?
Jock. Absolutely Jock.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah?
That's fair. Yeah, I'm pretty stubborn, yeah.
Yeah. This one, I wrote this one down before I even knew you both were into your drums. Question 5, who is the most dramatic?
I might have to take that one as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Stop me saying it. For a big guy, he's very dramatic.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Brilliant. Well, that's it, guys. Appreciate you coming on today and taking the time out to speak about your career and life, past and present.
Awesome, mate. Really enjoyed it. No, it's been a really good conversation. Thank you.
We do have one question for you, Nick, though, before you go.
Okay, fire away.
You made a comment a week or so ago about comparing us to Ant and Dec, and since then...
I'm sorry, yeah, I've just got one question here. Is which one is Ant and which one is Dec?
Well, that's the question for you.
Well, have you got a tape measure? Who's got the biggest forehead? The biggest forehead's Ant.
Jock.
I'll take that.
Jock's Ant. Yeah, no, it's been great, guys. Nice to catch up with you again, and some good stories there.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, Nick.
Cheers, Nick.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit that follow button and join me next time for more chats on Nick Needs to Know.